Good morning, Signature. Welcome to September 1st sales meeting. As you can see, I got a great panel here today. We got a lot of stuff on our agenda, and we're happy to see you here. We even got a little bit of a live audience in the office today.
Yay!
Welcome.
So
it's
it's a real light. I think we got like 3 of them, but they're nonetheless we've asked them to be loud today. So,
now we have
but
4.
yeah, they're rolling in now. So anyway, so we're going to start off with our wonderful mortgage person.
Yes, I showed up today. Are you excited?
I am.
I'm here. Yay!
No empty seat.
Yes, happy Tuesday, everyone. I wanted to share a couple things. I think I told everybody, I was Debbie Downer last week about rates. Rates actually peaked up a little bit, about 0.25%, and fortunately they're coming back down again.
Hey, nice.
Not sure what's going on, but it is rates are back down about 0.25% this morning when we woke up and got to lock in some of our rates. Wanted to really take a moment to say, now that we've finished off August, we're getting ready to roll in. We're in September now. I wanted to take a moment to really say thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who's really trusted us with your clients, trusted us in helping you market and to be better realtors. And so wanted to share also a very special closing for us. Thanks to Chris Bishop and the Bishop team and Tyson, who's actually one of your family members. We were able to get a VA loan done within 30 days, according to Tyson, who's our super serious analytical realtor. He said in 2 days short of 30 days, so I'll take that. 2 days short of 30 days on a VA loan that we had to order the appraisal for. We were able to make that happen, get them in before they had to move out of their house, because there was a little bit of pressure on that.
I never told you, but they had another lender, and the other lender said there's no way they'll ever get a loan and get into a house if they don't use me. And you turned it around in a second. So if you're not using Shelly, you definitely should be.
Aw, thank you. All of us at Prosperity Lending, again, just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity. As we head into the tail end, I know a lot of lenders right now are also saying the same thing, that unless you choose them, they're struggling to get deals closed within 30 to 45 days. We're making it happen on all of our deals. So thank you again, and look forward to seeing what the tail end of the quarter is going to look like, tail end of the year is going to look like for us.
It's going to be good.
We're getting close.
I know.
But we also want to thank you for all your hard work and all your support that you give to Signature,
Thank
because
you.
you make a big difference in the office. So.
Aw,
And
thank you. Not just
she
my...
fills the other chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk for a minute. We were going to talk a little bit about the office and production, and you mentioned, the last 6 months have been fantastic for the market. Have not been fantastic for the pandemic, but real estate has been hot. We've had a tremendous amount of sales. Sales are up. But we noticed that people that aren't using a great lender like you are struggling with appraisals. They're struggling with timelines. They're struggling with verification of income and employment. So what advice do you have to the agents on ways that they can work to keep those timelines going, and what should they be doing?
So I would say communication is the number one thing, and just knowing because if there are some lenders, if you're not using us, for sure,
Don't do that.
Not every lender can move as quickly to get appraisals done and has the resources, right? Because they're in a large bank, as an example, they don't have the ability to pull a rush or anything like that on an appraisal standpoint. As far as turn times as well, for us, our purchases are priority. We're pushing all of our refinances. We do have a higher influx of refinances right now, but we're pushing them to a longer turn time, just so that we can make sure to maintain our purchase transactions. So communication up front. I did actually have an agent over the weekend ask me about the loan contingency, and because he was like, well, I'm just worried about their job, and they mentioned the COVID addendum. Because I've been normally I would say 21, 27 days for loan contingencies, but close of escrow seems to be, the more reasonable, just because you don't know about their final verification of employment, which is something that we are requiring now with COVID. That's like one of the new things we're doing today. So communication number one, and then just making sure we understand the timelines and we're on the same page with that. And then we get the executed contract as soon as possible.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing for me.
Tell the lender when you sell a house. That's definitely
right.
important.
Yes.
Brandon, from your perspective, you've been in a lot of markets. You've been in multiple states that you've witnessed in marketplaces. What do you think of everything that's going on for real estate right now?
I just think it's crazy how in real estate it's almost like we've been immune to everything.
Yeah.
The market's crazy. We had over 80 closings last week as a company, and that's just down here.
Last week.
That's
awesome.
So it's happening, and if you're out there, you're getting your fair share. There are a lot of agents that are still struggling, but I think it's because they're not out there working.
Yeah, agreed. And we put in a lot of new programs to help agents get remotivated, to change mindset, to do whatever it takes to help you get the deal closed. And so talk a little bit about your new coaching program and the pods that you set up, because that was probably one of the coolest things I think that came out of this last week.
Yeah, so last week we had, it was last week, we had a Zoom call that we introduced the new, it's kind of a huddle. So on a weekly basis, you'll get together in pods of a group of 5 to 8, and we'll just coach and mentor everybody up and grow stronger, grow your business. It's designed really for the person that is above the level of coming in and getting the mentorship and really learning the business, and maybe not quite ready for personal coaching. So we can go as a group to help implement some of the systems and the tools to help you grow your business.
I love the fact that it's kind of that community feel, and I think that when you're with other people and you have a common goal and you're motivating and enjoying being around each other and you're supporting each other, I think that's when you see really cool things happen. And that's
part of the formula to succeed is the people around you. Yeah. And so if you have like-minded individuals trying to get to the same level and learn from each other, and there's great power in that. So
yeah. So if you want more information on that, please reach out to Brandon or myself, and we'll be happy to get that to you. Last night, the governor dropped a bomb on all of us with the eviction extension, and so I want to say, as the state president for Nevada Realtors, we had no idea the governor was going to extend this eviction issue, and we were as upset as everybody else. That we've worked with them on everything that they've done. We've been at the table. We've been supportive. And then to have this roll out with not a word to the realtors is really kind of insulting to all of us. And so I think the thing is, we're all going to have to live in Nevada and deal with what is going on. We understand that it's for the protection of people, to keep them safe and from being sick in their home. But owners still have a right to the income. They're still making their payments. They're still paying their bills. I think that we see the majority of tenants, probably 90%, are paying their rent, or they're making accommodations. So we're talking about that 10%. And the number went from 80,000 possible evictions to 280,000. And so I guess, how do you motivate a group? Add 200,000 to it. But I'm shocked. I have nothing good to say about it. And all I'm going to tell you is Nevada Realtors last night posted a notice to let everyone know that we're not going to take it lying down. And we're going to be very vocal with the governor's office that things need to change.
Should have communicated it. And the sad thing is, they're trying to look out for some tenants, but there's always another side of it, and other people get hurt through it. So it's tough, and I know it's going to affect us in property management, but we'll adapt.
And so, of course, it goes without saying, no, you cannot do open houses. They still are not allowed. You cannot show tenant-occupied properties. However, a showing is when I put a property on the market and I'm marketing to agents to come and show it. An inspection is where I have an appraiser or home inspector come in one time by themselves, not with the entire family, but to come in and look at that home. That is allowed under the order. And so I know that that's still been confusing for a lot of people, but that's the difference. And a walkthrough is not a showing at all. A walkthrough is where I'm going to do that inspection again, where it's scheduled. Now, there is a guideline that says if the tenant says, I'm sick, or I don't want you in my home, then you cannot go in. That's the only difference behind that. We had a meeting that Janet took extensive notes at with the AG, and he literally reaffirmed that he is looking for people that are violating that guideline. Isn't that what you said? Looking for them?
He said, you need to police your own and turn in your bad apples to the Attorney General's office. So, not good.
And he said no refunds at the end.
So if you've got a purchase agreement and you want to do your inspection, then it's possible to do unless the tenant pushes back.
Unless the tenant says, I'm sick. Even if you have a seller that's in a property and you're going to do an inspection, that's why we brought out the COVID addendums to kind of work through that. But if the seller says, hey, I'm sick, I don't want you in my house, well, then you're going to have to go through an extension process or do what you need to do to protect your buyer's earnest money, but let your lender know. But all of those things could happen.
So can you technically buy a home that's tenant occupied if you don't ever really go in and, like, if you do, is sight unseen still a thing? Or?
Yeah, but you could do the inspection.
Because we don't require an appraisal, like we can do drive-by or exterior drive-by exterior appraisal, so you don't even need to technically get in the home.
The problem would be if you were an FHA or VA loan and you have to occupy.
Yeah.
I cannot force the tenant to move out. So if they decide, even if the tenant says, yes, I'm agreeable and I'll move, at the last day of closing, they could say, no, I'm not going, you can't force me. And so that's why I suggest that everybody has verbiage in their contract that says if this happens, if the tenant refuses to leave, We all agree that we're going to extend, we're going to work together to make this work out. I've heard of people buying tenants out of their leases.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you $5,000 to leave, and the tenant says, okay, and they leave. But the problem is that the tenant says, well, hey, Mr. AG, they forced me out of the home by money, and they turn you in. Technically, you could be in violation of the AG's orders.
So cash for keys is not a thing.
It's a thing,
Just go
but
around.
you run
Well,
the
they
risk.
say something, that's the question.
Got it.
So the coolest thing I think to come out of last week for me was a big announcement. And it was a big announcement around realtors in the Valley. And so, Brandon, you want to tell us that announcement?
So if you haven't heard yet, I am running for president-elect of LVR. I got that right. So I could use all of your guys' support in this election. I'm going up against one other candidate. So hopefully we pull it out.
So what we decided to do today, because of Brandon's announcement, and congratulations again, we thought we'd put together some past past LVR presidents to kind of talk about things that happened in their year, to give a perspective for not only you guys, but also for Brandon. And so with me today, I have Patty Kelly, who was our 2008. It was GLVR. when you were president.
GLVR, right.
Yeah, now it's LVR. And of course our 2020 president, Janet Carpenter. And I was 2018 president. I'm Chris Bishop. Nice
I'm
to
not
meet
sure if
you.
they're going to try to talk me out of it or into it.
No, it's going to be
I
good.
don't
Here we
know.
go.
We're
It's
going to
gonna be
tell you
good.
the truth.
But before we go on to the president section, I do want to point out that we have a signature agent that is running for director, and he's probably one of the nicest guys we know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Ellie Morris is running for
Yay.
director, his first time, I think, doing that. And so we definitely are going to support Ellie 110%. If you know him, he's always at all the events that are out there. He's a great example of what it is to be a realtor.
He's going to make a big impact on the
Yeah.
board. So
He's Mr. Networking.
We're really excited
Yes,
for
he
him.
is.
They have this year, I believe, 15 people running for director. And so it's going to be a heated race, and it's important that we show support and we get out and vote, not only for Brandon, but for Ellie. And you have a shameless plug.
I do. My husband, Keith Kelly, who was president in 1997, a state president, and he went all the way up to NAR as a vice president, regional vice president. He decided that he would like to do it again because there are things that are going on that he's not really in favor of, and he wants to make his voice heard.
Free the MLS, I hear you.
And can I say one thing? So you've heard both Trump and Biden say, this is the most important election of your lifetime. And I've been on the board now for 10 straight years. And I can honestly say to you, this election is the most important one, at least in the past 10 years. And every single one of you need to vote. And if you don't know these people because you're not involved, again, I volunteer, I'll help you.
So like Janet said the other day, it's important that you meet all the candidates, get to know them, find out about their platform, and then she'll tell you who to vote for. So that was the best part about the meeting the other day. But Janet, every year has always done an election, kind of get to know the candidates, and so I think probably by Zoom, Janet will figure that out as well. Of course, Brandon will be her candidate for president-elect. But Janet,
Right?
Absolutely.
why do you do that?
Because I feel it's important to have your voice heard. Now, you can sit in the corner and complain and whine and go on Facebook and make all these nasty comments, but you don't really know what's going on. So you need to know what's going on. You need to vote for someone that you trust will represent you and your viewpoints. Because I will tell you, this past year, we've had some very, very controversial issues. And the vote is always 8-7,
Wow.
which is good in a way because the board speaks with one voice after the election. It's like, well, the board voted for this, even though it was 8-7. Has it always been the way I wanted it to be voted? Absolutely not. And so there's some major changes, I think, that need to be involved, and you need to, one, on September 4th, Friday, 1 o'clock, first you have to register with LVR and log into their Meet the Candidates day, and because there's some people on there that you've never heard of, but they will be wonderful. And then whenever we've scheduled it, when everybody's schedule is free, we'll schedule our own right before the election to kind of refresh your memory.
So I know that when we went through NAR's election, I was told as a state president that we can't have any background banners or anything supporting a candidate, but GLVR doesn't have that rule. or LVR. They don't have that rule. So we could create a Brandon Roberts and Ellie Morris banner that could be in the back so that everyone looking on that page, shameless
All
to
of our
say, but
jingles.
I think it's a great idea from my perspective.
Work on that.
I'll work on that. So let's talk first, for the context of everyone watching the meeting, and we'll start with you, Patty. What is the role of the GeoVera president? What are they actually there to do?
You're there to run the meeting with your directors. During your executive sessions, you go over everything with your officers, your executive committee, and you go over all the motions and everything, and you come back to your directors with an idea of how you want to present your meeting. But there's all kinds of things that come up that you plan forever to be president, and then all of a sudden you're there, and it's not going quite what you thought it would be.
Yeah,
so
tell me about it.
I was 2008. What happened in 2008?
I think there was a mortgage crisis,
We
right?
had a mortgage crisis. So when I started the year as president, we had 17,000 members. Devin ended the year with 17,000. When I ended the year and dues were due again in the next cycle, we were down to 10,000 members.
Wow.
So not only did we lose a big portion of our budget, but on the side, home value sunk 70%.
Yeah.
So you have this coming at you on a daily basis. The person that is president is going to spend 24 hours a day, every day of their term, doing something. And it is a position that you're not paid for. You are at NAR if you're NAR president because you travel a lot. But the person that decides to be president-elect and then on to president, God love him. God love you. God love you. It is a tireless job.
Yeah, for sure. Janet, your perspective, what does the president do?
Well, exactly what Patty said, but there are other things too. The main thing is, yes, the president runs the board of directors and runs the meeting. I'm going to have to rephrase that. You don't run the board of directors. They have their own opinions, but you run the meeting. But even though you're in charge kind of the board of directors, the CEO is in charge of the association and responsible for the financial and are we getting the right amount of dues and is this going wherever. So you are in constant contact with the CEO, and I'll tell you, one of the things I miss the most about not being president is talking to Wendy on the phone in my car on the way home from work almost every day. And many 3-hour calls on the weekend. But in addition to that, you're also gone a lot. Now, prior to COVID, I'm sorry for Tom, sorry for Chris, we did travel a lot, starting in January with going to New York and ending up in November in San Francisco and everything in between, because there are a lot of meetings that the president attends out of state that only the president and the CEO attend. So it's a lot of time and it's a lot of involvement. And I will tell you honestly, I could not have done this if Brandon hadn't said to me, do what you need to do, go where you need to go, and I'll cover for you. So thank you, Brandon, very much.
I just know how important it is for us as a company to be involved, and for you guys to be able to step up, and for us to be able to say that we have this many past presidents with our organization is huge.
Yeah.
You're in the know. Your voice is heard, and the stuff that you guys are able to bring back to the agents is just it's powerful.
So 2008, 2019, 2018, and one of the things that I noticed is that there are all types of different presidents, but the most effective presidents have been good planners, good schedulers, and they have the ability to leverage themselves. And I've noticed that with both of you, is that, yeah, there is travel that's taking part in that, but travel under the right circumstances with the right perspective brings a lot of value. I know that I brought back a ton of information. I mean, you must have written volumes. You could have written an encyclopedia from your time and brought back that info to the agents. And it's stuff that you don't get by going to one event or one class.
This is a lifetime.
Yeah, it's right at the source, and that's what was coolest for me is that I learned to be a good president, you have to run an effective meeting. You have to take your ego out of it. You have to take the context of all the members, not just you and your company. And I see you as that person, Brandon. I really believe that you'll do good at that because you do think of everybody. And I think you're good at planning and scheduling. And to Janet's point, we have an amazing leadership team that we've expanded for this reason. I mean, we literally have been preparing for this day. so that you are able to give it that time to the membership and to the company for that value. So
Yeah, I came off the
that's pretty
board
cool.
2 years ago
Yep.
in order to set things up for this to be able to happen. So we could put the focus, also create the time. That's my son.
Yeah.
Also create the time and the ability for Janet to go up there so that I could step back and do that too.
So know that we've got the right things in place to make that happen for Brandon, and I know that he'll do a good job there. Moving on to the next question, I always find this interesting, and this time we'll start with Janet. Why did you get into leadership? I mean, what horrible thing happened, or what good thing happened that caused you to say, I need to get involved?
How much time do I have?
Just a second.
Well, I've always been an involved person. Before I got involved in real estate and with the board, my husband was in the Air Force, and I always served on the Officers' Wives Club board all over the country. I was president of that board in not only at Nellis, but also when I lived on Guam for 2 years. So then I came back to Las Vegas after being on Guam for 2 years, reactivated my license, and decided I wanted to be involved because the Officers' Wives Club thing had kind of gone by the wayside. And started on committees, and I was with another company. I was serving on grievance and MLS, and the general manager called me. He was in Washington, D.C., called me on a Friday at lunch and said, you need to turn in your application to run for the board. I said, no, I'm very happy on grievance. I'm very happy on MLS. I'm not doing that. And he said, you're the only person in this company that really qualifies and that can really get elected. And he said, I want your application, your resume, and your picture into the board by 5 o'clock. I'm like, I don't have a resume.
Oh.
I've been a teacher, I've been a realtor, neither one of whom has resumes. He said, and he said to me, you will have your application in by 5, and hung up.
So she was thrust into leadership.
Voluntold.
I think a lot of us were.
So then I got on the first year, I had no idea what was going on. There were very serious people, and they very intellectually and verbally expressed their opinions in a very civil manner. And by the time I figured out, thank God it was a 2-year term, because then by the second year I knew what was going on. And then by the second year I'm like, I'm really learning a lot and bringing it back to my agents because I was an office manager. I think I'll run again. And then it's like, oh, I'm not ready to give up all the good information I'm getting and all the networking I'm doing. I think I'll run for treasurer. And then never wanted to be president, never was in my mind. And someone sat me down and said, you will run for president, you're not done. And I'm like,
And she did.
I did. So here I am, here I was, there I was.
Perfect, Janet. That's the perfect second that we.
Perfect second.
Perfect.
I started my leadership experience through Women's Council of Realtors because I started real estate in the mid-70s, progressed, took a little time off in the 80s, but in the 90s I was WCR local president, state president, and governor. Because at that time, you had to have a stepping stone to get on the board of directors. If
Yeah.
you were a woman, you had major problems. So we decided as a group that we were going to step up and get on the board, and we did. I was treasurer 3 times for GLVR before I became vice president, president-elect. But it's a wonderful experience. I think the biggest thing I got out of it is the close friendships I've made through the years. You talked about travel. The contacts that we made on a national level, you can't put a price on. It was just a wonderful experience.
Aw.
Yeah.
Aw, that's just so nice to hear.
Yeah, and I used to take my kids to WCR.
You used to.
I
haven't
think
been
you
anywhere
used to
lately.
sell tickets.
I think I'm Patty's son.
Yeah.
So I got into leadership
Well,
also
with us having
through
the same
WCR.
haircut, you may be.
Yeah, you guys starting to look alike. I'm beginning to worry.
I'm coming for you,
Use my
buddy.
campaign flyer. Go ahead. Tell us why you got into leadership when you got on the board.
It was actually WCR as well.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I started out as treasurer there, voluntold by Vondana.
Voluntold.
Yep, you're going to do this, so I did it. And then next thing I know, they wanted him. I was the first male president of WCR in 2013. And I went to leadership with the state because of WCR.
Yep.
And then after that was just a natural progression to run for the board and stuff.
That's really cool. Those grassroots parts. Basically, for me, my mother was president when I got in. Well, I take that back. My mother was in leadership when I got into business, and she said, you need to get on a committee. It was like my first year, and so she helped me get on the scholarship committee. And I thought, well, this is kind of cool. So I spent 2 years on that, kind of getting used to it. So I was brought into leadership by my parents. And then I ran for the MLS because I figured that was an initial stepping stone, you know, learn MLS and then the board. And so I ran. That race actually was selected by participants, so brokers or agents, and I lost. It was me against Todd Miller and Walt Coffey, and these guys had been around for a while then. But I was the new, kid on the block. New kid on the block. I said that out loud. I was the new person, but I had 2 years experience. I was doing good business, and I lost. And I thought, this sucks. So the very next week, they had elections for the board of directors, and I won. Anyway.
Hey, but another thing
that's his
that
legacy.
good came out of that Women's Council, that's actually how I
Yes.
met Janet.
Is it really?
Janet was at every meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, she was one of my faithful fans.
I
I think she
was.
came years before and years after, but she
We
was
were
at
trying
all
to figure
of
out
them.
how you got in there.
I
Like,
always
how's this
go to
guy
women's
in the
council.
women's
Right,
council?
we used to have
Rooster?
dinner meetings
Yes,
and
they
cocktail
were
hours
fabulous.
at Canyon Gate Country Club. I mean, there was
The good old
200 of
days.
us.
Yeah.
The good old days.
And it was a good time. I mean, no one would ever miss those meetings.
Yeah, when you provide great value and good cocktails. What?
It's a great
Let's go
group.
back to the group again. Just real quick, what was your highlight of your year? The thing that kind of distinguished your year from others, and not, the thing that you are excited about that happened.
I was 2008. That was 12 years ago.
Oh, come on, give us one thing that you were excited about.
I was excited. I had a great board of directors.
That's the last time we've ever heard that.
I really had a great board of directors because one thing I can tell someone that's coming into leadership that wants to be president, go out and talk to people and get those people to run for your board of directors so that you have support.
Yeah.
So that you don't ask the question unless you know the answer. You gotta be proactive and get a great group of people that are going to listen to you a little bit.
That's
hopefully.
good advice.
Right?
That's good advice. Janet, what was the thing that you were excited about from your year?
Well, I can't think of one thing. I had a
Uh-oh.
strange.
Is that because there's
That
too
was-
many?
I
Or?
gave this
a
question
couple
out
years
beforehand.
ago.
I just want to point that out to the audience.
Yeah, 30 seconds notice.
Uh-huh.
I had a strange experience because I followed. Patty was talking about females getting on the board. I followed 4 male presidents, including this one, and 3 of them were under 40, including this one,
Yeah.
and they were out to change the world. There were so many changes made here and changes made there, some for the good, some like questionable. And so
Except for that one.
Yeah. She didn't point again.
So one of the things that I came into, plus we were in a new building that you probably didn't know it, but had major issues. The contractor was not the best, and we were trying to work out those issues with the building. And my whole thing was, we need to settle down and find out what's working and what's not working and have no major changes. The only really major change that I got numerous kudos for was the Poor Education Committee. Those people, some driving from past the M, some driving from Aliente, once a month to go in and sign up for the classes they were going to monitor, and which took all of 5 minutes because they didn't really have a meeting, and then having to leave again. So the one thing that I did that I hope made their life easier was we changed it, 1 to quarterly meetings, and 2, we have a wonderful IT guy at LVR, and he set up a program where they can now register for the classes they want to monitor online. And if something comes up and they can't make it, they can go online, say, sorry, I can't make this class, can somebody fill in to me? So that has saved that committee buku's time. But that was like only the really major thing. I wanted things to settle down, and it was a good thing because the president followed me, has made all kinds of changes.
Not me.
He closed the board.
even before COVID hit.
Yeah. So I think for my answer, I was the culmination of multiple years of activities. The MLS committee got finalized with me. The board building got open with me. The membership seemed to be
You notice
doing
he
good
has
with me.
notes.
I do. And so I think for
Where are
my
my
year,
notes?
We didn't know.
for my year, it was the end of a group of consistent thinkers that went to Janet's year for the consistency of letting things settle. And I think it worked very well for that. But all of those things were great. So I don't have any bad things to say about my year except for the nothing
You
bad.
survived.
I survived. Real quick, let's give Brandon just your advice for him for his role, the thing that you would tell him, looking back as a past president. Here's what you need to know, Brandon.
When you can, get out and meet the other brokers. Be in contact with a core group of people for feedback, see how they're looking at the market, what their agents think. Communication is key to everything. And with social media, I'd be sending out those videos to those brokers and saying, let's get together and talk when we can.
That's a great point.
And pick that board of directors. Get out and make sure you've got some knowledgeable people that are running.
So real quick on her point, because this is perfect for the agents to hear this at this point, we're doing a lot of transactions out in the marketplace with a lot of co-op agents that are not with our brokerage. And it's really important that we get Brandon on the board. So as you're doing those deals, reach out to that agent and let them know that your broker is committed to making our industry better, and ask them for Brandon, ask them
To support
to
me.
support him. Yes. And so that would help a lot. It'd be major for that. So I think that'd be cool. Janet, what's your point?
So, assuming that the world is opened up again and COVID is gone, I think the hardest thing for Brandon is going to be, knowing him as I do, the fact that really deep in his heart, he's an introvert. And there are so many things you have to attend, events in the community, dinners for organizations that you've
forgot
never
that.
heard of. But Brandon, once you start getting out there, you're really going to make new friends, and you're going to really enjoy it and benefit from
It's
it.
the people you meet.
Yes.
That was the highlight of your year.
She's been trying to get me to go to the parties for years.
Hasn't worked yet, but maybe now.
So Janet's advice is make new friends. That's
And
very
keep
good.
the old.
That's right. Don't forget
Yes.
about us little people.
Both of you.
I think my advice for you is to be you. All of us here know and respect you and know what a quality guy you are. And so I think that just going out and showing the agents out there who you are, which you've done before in the elections, but I think that really will lead them to know that you're the right candidate. So that for sure. The next couple of questions are for Brandon. And so Brandon, you've decided to do this. We've committed to it as a company, and we're supporting you as a group. Tell us why. Why is it that you've decided that I have to do this?
I don't have to do this. I think it's something that I'm choosing to do because I think it's important for our organization, and also I want to follow in the example that you guys have set. I think it's important that you have a president that can run a board meeting and not dictate a board meeting.
Yep.
Right, there's a big difference.
And it's concerning to me when you have votes that are exactly the same every single topic. That's not people representing the membership. That's an agenda somewhere.
Yeah.
And when I look at it from the outside, it appears to me that there's too many agendas right now, and I think we need a more of a diverse board. I think it's important to have a broker and a business owner on that board.
Agreed.
And it shouldn't be heavy brokers and it shouldn't be heavy agents, but it should be a mix. And I think that I have a level head and I can bring good judgment to the board.
That's a great way to wrap
That's
that.
important.
Continuing on that same segment, the big picture for the president is kind of like Patty said, in President-elect is your year of planning, the things that you'd like to see happen and kind of getting them ready. And that was great because we had a group when Janet and I went through that supported each other, and we let our president-elects be part of the discussion and get out there and do things. And that wasn't always the truth in your years. And so, what's your big vision? What things would you like to see come from this that would support, the membership and brokers?
Free the MLS.
Free the MLS.
No, I think the big vision is the communication.
Yeah.
Communication with the members. I think that's a hard subject to tackle. Everybody communicates so differently, and we know that even just through our company. You can't communicate just through Facebook, just through email. I think looking at ways to have better communication and communicate with the members the way that they need to be communicated with, so that there is that participation and they understand the value of the board.
Yeah.
And not just complain about it. There's great value and there's great things that the board does for our membership. That's why we belong.
And technology has changed so much, and it seems like every election year everyone touts, technology. I'm for technology. I want to make technology changes. What you've spent like a huge amount of time creating a video culture here to be able to have this great setup and the green room that we have, and kind of changing the narrative for this company to be out there and promoting yourself as agents. What's your vision for the association as far as technology and how that works?
Well, I think that video and stuff goes along the line of communication and getting the word out. My vision is really just to bring stabilization to the board and a level head,
Yep.
really, so that we can make educated decisions, again, not with an agenda, but actually move the board forward.
Sure. That's great.
And create it so that we don't have a bunch of members that come on to the meeting to have to reverse decisions
Yeah.
because they weren't discussed and thought out properly.
Yeah, that probably is the worst thing that we could have seen happen, is that members got so upset based on the communication and things that are out there that they literally they didn't pick it. There were only like 20 of us, but we went there to say, hey, this needs to change and we need to make this better.
But that was important because the people that did that are past presidents and people that really love and care about this board,
Yeah.
and didn't want to see an injustice done or a decision made that was really going to be harmful to our board.
Sure.
So it was neat to see that.
Yeah, of course. Shelley, you're outside of the realtor perspective, and so hearing what you've heard and seeing what you've seen and knowing Brandon the way that you do, what do you think of all of this? What do you think the value he's going to
Be
bring
nice.
to the membership?
Yes. Well, I mean, I had the opportunity to watch him as you led the forums committee, and just watching how animated. That was my first time being in a committee where, because the trends committee, I don't necessarily think, like, I didn't participate in some actual stuff happening, other than just being there to listen to the content. But to watch how sides and how some realtors get super passionate about specific verbiage, and just to watch how he kind of he really just made everybody calm, and how he collectively listened to all of us, whether they were here, and we came to a lot of great decisions and made some impact for that short period of time that I was on there. But I think that just speaks to who you are, just in general, just very, and even with me, as I talk to him as a partner, I'm like, so, hey, how about this? How about this? He absorbs and retains, and then the information that comes back out is just, to me, I'm like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Like, and so I'm excited to see your leadership through that, as well as, how, just in seeing how you manage, you own, you've grown this company, and to say 2 years ago when you're like, I'm going to do it. And here we are today.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely do what you set out to do. So proud of you for that.
Thank you.
I know that they will tell you that it's very rare for a broker owner of a company, and a large company, to get involved at the board because their claim is, I don't have time for that.
Right, exactly.
Or, I'll let someone else do it. And it's nice to finally see someone step up to the plate and say, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there to support the agents in the marketplace. I'm going to make a difference. And I've noticed that. I mean, this is how long you've been on the board for. 2008. That was like 20 years ago you started, and so it was that way all the way through.
Like 30.
Yeah. Anyway, we won't go there any further. If someone is watching this video and they are moved by what we've talked about and they want to get involved, what advice would you have for them? And we'll start with you, Janet. Just kind of go around. But what advice would you have for them to get involved, and how should they start?
Well, you have to start somewhere. So the best place to start, assuming all the Zoom stuff
Yeah,
and
it
COVID's
opens up.
gone, is to join a committee. And there are a number of committees that you can just say, hey, this interests me. I'm going to go attend a meeting. Here's the thing. If COVID's gone and you show up at the January meeting, or even the Zoom January meeting, you're automatically a member of that committee. Otherwise, you have to go to 3 meetings in a row. There are other committees that are appointed. So if you're interested in an appointed committee, you need to talk to the president or the president-elect to get on those committees. Now, for the president-elect, normally you'd be talking to them probably right before the election to say, I would really like for you to consider me to be on grievance, or to be on forums, or professional standards, or whatever it is. You have to reach out and make contact, and then go from there.
Yeah, as soon as you're elected, you got to start picking your vice chairs of all the committees. So that's something that hits you right away.
Quickly, huh?
Quickly, everything is quickly. I started on the political affairs committee. I ended up being chairman in 2 years, and being chair of the political affairs, put me on board pack, which is our political
That's a fun
action
time.
committee. Yeah, and then I ended up being chair. So I was on that for 7 years. I was on MLS for 7 years. I had a lot of time on my hands because my husband was in front of me. So there's 10 years between us being presidents. So.
I would say it's the committees as well. I mean, as much of an introvert as I am, as Janet says, it's a great place to meet people.
Yeah.
It helps you in your business. It helps you get transactions done, and it gives you a taste of the board and brings you in. I think you have to tap in, whether it's at your company or whether it's at the board. You have to make an effort to participate, and if you do, there's great benefit in that. And an easy way to do that is the committee. And then I got to serve on forums. As the vice chair and all the way up to the chair, and that was one of my favorite committees.
Yeah.
I also sat on grievance for a time, and that's a great committee. But there are a lot of committees that you don't have to be appointed to. I know we have a lot of people that used to go to the Trends Committee. They used to think it was a signature real estate committee.
And that's something
And
that
it's
you
all due to
said
you.
in your year.
So-
Yeah. Shelley, from your perspective, you came not as a realtor, but as a lender into that setup. How did you get involved?
So I grew into the organizations through the Asian Real Estate Association.
Yeah.
I honestly used to be the banner girl. That was my token thing. I had to bring the banners, had to set them up, and then sure when I
Where's the banner girl at?
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, and then I got called from, not Vandana, because she actually served on my board with me, but I got called to the chapter president to become the chapter president in 2012. And I can tell you that connection led me into meeting Brandon, just networking with a lot of different realtors. And then I love being part of, when we had the general membership meetings and all
Yeah.
and I
They're
loved
fun.
celebrating at Janet's installation. So I love all of that dress up stuff.
So did I.
Me too.
But that to me has been invaluable, truly. Like just even from the trade organization that I was part of, I have had and maintain those relationships, and it's helped me to be successful today. And that you just never know, right? That there's going to be one opportunity that you need somebody on the other side, and you remember that that's
Yep.
the person you saw at forums or trends or
Yep.
whatever. As well as there's so much information. I got so much information. I'd come back to my team like, I was just at this trends committee, or I was just in the forums committee. This is about to change, and just all of that. So my number one thing would be get involved. Even if you start off being a banner stand person, get involved and just see where it takes you. And I think you guys do an amazing job in the committees. And every year I know everybody gets up and talks about all the differences in committees. And if you're questioning or thinking about it, just take that one step to find out what it's about and get involved.
Some presidents come in and want to get rid of committees.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst thing you can do. Keep the committees so the members
Get rid of
can
the
be-
people.
Yeah, keep the committees and keep the members in being
Give them an opportunity to
engaged.
get
Yeah,
involved, yeah.
because
Involved.
it's some people that come in and want to change it totally.
So that's actually the lesson I learned, and I think Janet and I shared that, is no matter how many good deeds or how much planning or how much involvement you have, no matter what, change will happen. And sometimes it's going to be the change that you make, and sometimes they're going to change you. And so I noticed that things that we put in place that I literally, we had all these meetings to figure out how to do it right, and we fixed it. And then 2 years later, another president came in and said, no, let's change
Yeah.
that. And so the good news about that is the association's always evolving. And that's not a bad thing, but it seems bad to the president that it happens to. My biggest advice for you to get involved is to pick your passion. If your passion is going to events because you enjoy interacting with people, start there. If your passion is political affairs because we have a committee and you want good political information and you love that, go there. And I mean, there's always an avenue at the board. And if there's not a committee that drives your passion, get the president to create one.
Yeah.
And that's how it literally works. And so I think that's the best advice I can give. Last thing that I'm going to end with, and it's really important, and it's so important because as the perspective of state president, the fact is we're still essential. No matter what happens with the evictions or showings or open houses, our business is still happening, and it's because of one thing, and it's our political survival fund. And so probably 30 years ago now, we started a whole process in the state, and we've been one of the top fundraisers or investment raisers for the political survival fund. And I know, like all of you, you've heard from agents saying, I don't need that crap. They're not getting any more of my money. Let's talk for a second just in the reflection of perspective. How has the investments that all of us have made, because we're all major investors and we've done that, How has it led to this point in this pandemic of keeping this business open? Brandon, we'll start with you.
Well, I think just it opens dialogue with the higher ups that our association was able to have to keep us as an essential business. If we didn't have those connections and we were non-essential, can you imagine where you'd all be today?
Yeah.
I mean, just that alone is worth the investment, because if you made any money during this period of time, it's due to that. The other thing is, I mean, they continually fight back taxes on commissions and everything else like that. That saves you. They're always looking out for as an association in our political fund and our lobbyists, for the homeowner and for our industry. And it's important that we be a voice.
Yeah. Patty, you've always been a big proponent of, getting people into the group, and sometimes you pulled them in, sometimes you pushed them
Kinda.
to see the investment.
Kinda.
You
Brandon
pushed
talked,
me.
yeah. Brandon,
Oh.
she's gotten a lot of us, let me tell you. But talk about the fair share and why that piece is so important versus always being a major investor, at least.
It is important to your business that you contribute something instead of having a smaller amount of people carry the weight. I mean, some of us are giving $4,000, $5,000 every year because we can't get $50 out of our regular members. If everyone gave $50 and the broker's $110, we wouldn't have to write those checks out and eat hot dogs sometime instead of going out to dinner, because I got to make that next $1,000 payment, and it's a stretch.
Chris
a
coulda
lot
went
of
to
times.
college.
I could have went to Harvard, folks. You
Coulda
heard
went
it
to-
right
yes,
there.
you
That
coulda.
little pin on her lapel is the reason why I'm not
Yes,
more successful.
I mean, right here is $50,000.
Yeah.
I'm proud that over my 30-some years in real estate in Las Vegas, that I have been able to contribute to the Political Survival Fund.
50,000.
Well, over a period of time,
That's
yeah,
pretty awesome.
50,000 is hard. And my husband is right behind me.
She got ahead of him on that one.
So
Well, we appreciate it too.
I
like
know,
we do.
I
we
know,
do.
but I'm looking for someone to take our place,
Yes.
and I'm looking at you guys.
Janet, your perspective. You've always been very good at explaining it so the average member understands the value, and I've noticed that with you. Tell our group, as you've told them many times, why it's important.
Well, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I'm going to go back a couple of years to things that are saving your sellers and your home buyers money. Several years ago, the legislature, in its infinite wisdom, decided at the point of sale, every home in Las Vegas had to have an energy audit. Those are not inexpensive. But through our lobbying team and our influence at the legislature, we were able, at the very last minute, in fact, every home inspector in town had gone out and gotten certified to do energy audits, we were able to defeat that. And there was another bill that sticks firmly in my mind. This was several years ago too. The legislature, in their infinite wisdom, decided that every house at point of sale that had a pool, the pool had to be
Oh, the
fenced.
fencing, yeah.
It didn't matter the type of pool you had, didn't matter the landscaping and the $150,000 you put in your backyard, it had to be fenced at point of sale. But through our contributions to PSF and our paying our lobbying team and our supporting candidates who are in the legislature, we were able to get that defeated. So right there, we've saved your buyers and your sellers a ton of money. Little history.
In my year as state president in 2013, we had this thing called sales tax on services. Rocky came to us and said, this is going to pass. We don't have a way out of this. And we fought it because we had the dollars. We spent a couple $1 million preventing sales tax on services. That would have been 6% of the agent's commission and 6% from the broker. So it comes into Brandon, he's going to pay 6%. The check goes to Janet, she's going to pay 6%.
That means
We
12%
stopped
to
that
the
with the
agent.
political dollars of the money on a local and state level. That was huge.
When you hear the perspective, it really makes a difference.
And
to
I want to say
understand.
one more thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I have an agent who is also licensed in California. She works the Bay Area. And San Francisco has just doubled their transfer
Oh, yeah.
tax. And you know good and well what happens in
Seems like a
California
good idea.
comes this way. So,
We've had that many times where they wanted to change it to $15 per thousand, and we settled on 510, and that was, you know, maybe 10 years ago.
And that's a fee that appears to the seller or the buyer, right?
Right.
But it affects you being able to get your commission too.
And sales.
Yeah, it affects your bottom dollar and the sales. You're right.
Yeah, I mean,
Less
if
people
you,
will sell.
If you looked, and you know, right now someone looks at a closing statement or a net sheet that they should be doing, and they see the commission and they focus on that. If below the commission was a transfer tax that was $10,000, do you think your client may be less likely to sell their home? And that was the answer, yes. And so I think the whole point is that these things, these investments, it's not for the benefit of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or the Independent Party or whatever party you want to go to. It's for the benefit of our business and keeping the industry essential. So if you haven't found out about PSF, contact one of us. If you're interested in getting more involved, we'd love to help you. And no matter what you do, please contribute your fair share because it does make a difference. And with that, Brandon, congratulations on your decision. We support you. And looking forward to you being our next president.
Awesome.
Yay.
Thank you guys. And thank you guys. And this is a wrap for another sales meeting. And we look forward to seeing you in the offices or online soon.